the Majors TV. I am Adam Hernandez. Today's edition of the Morning Drive, I want to talk about briefly the Raiders moving to Las Vegas and the kind of what that tells us about the future of the NFL, especially when it comes to obviously the teams and franchises that encompass it. It's kind of funny that yesterday I got a tweet from a friend of mine who was a contributor of the Majors, Michael Cullen, and he tweeted something at me saying that the NFL is with this move is putting an emphasis on quick profit over long-term, and I'm paraphrasing his tweet to me, over long-term success, long-term financial stability perhaps in a particular market, which I think is something that that move to Las Vegas really tells us. And then this morning I was taking a look at an article from Yahoo Sports where they discuss the NFL putting their own business interests over developing communities in cities. Now, again, that may that Yahoo title, that Yahoo focus there may sound a little utopian. It may sound a little idealistic, and it may in some ways sound a little cheesy. However, I think there's a real point to what the Yahoo article says about this move that coincides with what my friend tweeted at me the other day or yesterday. And that, look, I want to preface that I have no problems with the Raiders moving out of Oakland. I think that if any team deserves a new stadium, it is the Oakland Raiders. I know they have a weird ownership group. I know Al Davis's son is I don't want to say just like his dad, but bizarre like his dad. But let's be real with the Oakland Coliseum. It's falling apart. You've got raw sewage coming up in the locker rooms. It's not a good facility. So I could see why they would want to go and get a new stadium. I fully support them getting a new stadium. I think they deserve one. Like when you have raw sewage coming up through the locker room drains and whatnot, I think any team deserves a new stadium. However, and I also have no problems with California being down a team, considering they have currently right now 2 in Northern California and 2 in Southern California, with those 2 teams in Southern California being in LA alone, which is a huge mistake in and of itself. But this whole move to Las Vegas is fishy, considering that we have that price tag for a new stadium in Las Vegas all of a sudden, being drastically reduced on the Raiders' part, and now all of a sudden it, what is it, over $400 million now being allocated from public funding to help support this move. And that's where I have a problem. Not to mention, Las Vegas, I believe, according to the article, is the 40th biggest television market. And this kind of goes back to Michael Cullen's point, my friend who tweeted at me yesterday, saying that the NFL, instead of short-term profit, which would be in some sense the new stadium deal that they're going to get, is sacrificing long-term success in a particular city. Now, I'm not saying that Las Vegas isn't going to be successful. However, Las Vegas isn't a city that has had a professional sports franchise within the 4 major sports leagues in the United States. Now, if I were the NFL, if I was the Raiders, I would do a real-time case study with the Las Vegas Golden Knights, see how that goes, see how fan support goes there, and then you move on. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then you go and you look elsewhere. But like I said, aside from that, and this is more what the Yahoo article was getting at, is this changing culture in the NFL when it comes to ownership and the stranglehold they have on cities. Whereas if you don't give us a new stadium, then we're going to pack our bags and move elsewhere. Which is exactly what we saw in Oakland. Like I said, I have no problem with Oakland doing that. However, that's the same thing we saw in St. Louis, essentially. It's the same thing that we saw in San Diego as well. Again, teams moving, I don't have a problem with. However, when you are pigeonholing a city, when you're holding them to something, when you're holding them to public money, that's where it starts to get that's where you're going to start losing support amongst people. And that's where the NFL is going to start to look like an even more dirty business than they actually are. And it leaves a lot of, I guess, worry with a lot of other teams around the league as to whether or not they're going to have a NFL franchise here in a couple years. And this is something else the Yahoo article talked about as well. Teams like Tampa Bay, Buffalo, the Carolina Panthers. What are they going to do? What are their fans going to think, seeing what's happening around the league? When it comes to their own situations, if they don't fork over a bunch of money for a new shiny stadium, are they going to end up losing their teams as well? And this is where a big problem comes into play here. And it's probably a problem where the NFL may end up losing support in their own communities, in their own cities, as to whether or not they could really bring in the fans to fully support their franchise if they think that if there's any thought to ownership picking up and leaving in a couple of years if they don't get a brand new stadium with all the latest amenities into it. And I don't know. I think that that's a problem for the NFL. I think that that's something they may want to trek back on. And we saw it in the vote yesterday. NFL owners are now more prone to go and get that public funding rather than try to finance it themselves. In case in point, Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, was the only owner in the league to vote against the Raiders' move to Las Vegas. And right now, the big thing is he did that because of funding for it. He forked over a lot of his own money to stay in Miami, to keep the Dolphins in Miami, and that's something that the Raiders aren't doing. Look, I guess you can't fault the Raiders too much. If a city's willing to fork over the money, then you know what? How much could you really blame them for taking it? I think this is a bigger problem with the NFL, where they're going to start alienating fans. They're going to start making fans become disillusioned potentially if they keep on this model with demanding cities hand over a ton of cash to build new stadiums. So anyways, that's going to do it this morning for the morning drive. Make sure you check us out on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TheMajorsTV. And you can check us out on Twitter as well, at TheMajorsTV. Anyways, we'll see everybody next time. I am Matt Hernandez.